Welcome back to the Living Higher series of Shiurim. Rosh Hashana is rapidly approaching, and it's very important that we're using this time to get into the right mindset for Rosh Hashana. So therefore, this week's topic is Rosh Hashana, unlimited potential, no limiting beliefs. On Rosh Hashana we say, Hayom Haras Olam, today is the birthday of the world. Even though the world was really created on Chaf Hei El, but since Adam Harishon, the first man, was created on Rosh Hashana, therefore Rosh Hashana is considered the birthday of the world. The question is, what does it mean that Rosh Hashana is the birthday of the world? Are we just having a grand birthday celebration? Is that what it's all about? Instead of having birthday cake, we're having honey cake. Instead of those blowing horns, we're blowing shofar? Or is there something a bit deeper behind the meaning of Rosh Hashana being the birthday of the world? On Rosh Hashana we read from the Torah, V'Hashem pakad es Sarah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembered Sarah Imenu to have a child. Why is this what we read from the Torah on Rosh Hashana? Chazal tell us that Sarah Imenu was unable to have a child. She was an islandess, she was barren. It wasn't just that she had a difficult time conceiving or becoming pregnant. Her anatomy didn't allow for her to have a child. She was missing the necessary parts of her body to have a child. It was impossible for Sarah Imenu to have a child. When was it that Hashem pakad es Sarah? When was it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembered Sarah Imenu to have a child? So the Gemara in Rosh Hashana and Yud Amud Beis tells us that it was on Rosh Hashana. On Rosh Hashana is when Sarah Imenu was remembered that she could have a child. HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembered Sarah Imenu that she could have a child. The significance of Rosh Hashana being the birthday of the world, the significance of Rosh Hashana of Hayom Haras Olam, Rosh Pinkas explains, is that what is creation? What is the beginning of the world? It is the koach of Yesh Ma'ayin, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created something from nothing. The koach of Rosh Hashana, says Rosh Pinkas, is a koach of Yesh Ma'ayin, of something from nothing, of hischatshus, of brand newness. That is what it means that Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of the world. That there's a koach, there's a special strength on Rosh Hashanah of that nothing is impossible, the koach of Yesh Ma'ayin. We read about Sarah Imenu having a baby on Rosh Hashanah because it was impossible for Sarah Imenu to have a baby. Her anatomy didn't allow for her to have a baby. Yet, on Rosh Hashanah, what we're saying is, nothing is impossible, and therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembered Sarah Imenu on Rosh Hashanah to have a baby. On Rosh Hashanah, the impossible becomes possible. We all have in our lives our impossibles. We all have our things, our situations which seem impossible to change, impossible to get out of. We seems like we're completely stuck. It may have been going on for year after year after year, to the point that we gave up. It's impossible. It's impossible. This is my reality. Nothing's going to change. It could be financial challenges and difficulties, health challenges, shalom bayis issues. What we have to realize and what we have to believe, it's not just that on Rosh Hashanah everything gets decided. But even the impossible becomes possible on Rosh Hashanah. There is the koach of the Yesh Ma'ayin, the koach that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could create something from nothing. That is the koach of Rosh Hashanah. The impossible can become possible. There's one more impossible that I want to bring up that I think it's important to talk about, is that sometimes we could have done a certain chet, we could have done a certain avera, or a lot of averas, and we've heard that either it's very difficult to do tshuva for those averas, or maybe we've even heard that it's impossible to do tshuva. That tshuva doesn't help. There's no tshuva for these things that we've done, for these mistakes that we've made. And we could feel like, what's the use? What's the point of this whole Rosh Hashanah, Slichas Yom Kippur, doing tshuva, Seres Tshuva, going through the motions, if it's impossible for me to do tshuva anyway, if my tshuva doesn't work, what's the point? Rav Tzadok HaKohen in Tzidkas HaTzadik, Ois Mem Hey, he writes that even for these averas, that quote unquote there's no tshuva for, that tshuva doesn't help, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's koach of Yesh Ma'ayin, of creating something from nothing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will create the pathway back for us. Even if that pathway doesn't exist, even if the tshuva is impossible, that's fine. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could take care of it. With the power of creating something from nothing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates the tshuva, the ability for us to do tshuva, even for those things that we messed up on, that we've always heard is impossible. And this is the yesh ma'ayin that we have to tap into on Rosh Hashana, the impossibilities becoming possible. I just want to end off with reading Rav Shimshon Pincus's words. I'll read the translation that I wrote, because I think it's so important to fully understand this topic. So Rav Shimshon Pincus writes like this: the Nakuda of Rosh Hashana, the main point of Rosh Hashana is Hayom Haras Olam. Today is the birthday of the world. Hakol Haschil Mehaskalah. Everything starts from the beginning. It is possible to change, and this applies to every single one of us. So why don't we change? It's because we don't believe that it's possible to change. The nature of a person is that we ask for what we think is possible and not for what we think is impossible. This is the avodah of these days, Rav Shimshon Pincus writes, to change by believing that it is possible for us to build a new world. Let's try to live a little higher and really focus on these days leading up to Rosh Hashana, on internalizing and believing that with Rosh Hashana, there is the power for the impossible to become possible, and even to create something from nothing. B'siyata d'shmaya.